Picture this. You finally scraped together your first $1,000. You worked overtime, skipped a few dinners out, maybe sold some stuff you didn't need anymore. You open your banking app and there it is. 4 digits. And for about 10 seconds, you feel like a genius. Then reality hits. $1,000 isn't going to change your life. It won't cover a real emergency. It definitely won't make you rich. So what was the point? Here's what nobody tells you. That $1,000 wasn't about the money at all. And the weird part is, saving your first $1,000 is actually harder than becoming a millionaire. I know that sounds backwards, but stick with me, because once you understand why, you'll understand exactly how wealth actually gets built. Most people assume wealth building is linear. Save a little, then save more, then eventually you're rich. But that's not how it works. There's a hidden difficulty curve, and it's shaped nothing like people expect. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, psychology, and why some people build wealth almost effortlessly while others stay stuck at the same number for years. If you've ever wondered why your first bit of savings felt like climbing a mountain, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it ends up making sense of your own situation. Let's start with the part that trips everyone up. Mathematically, saving your first $1,000 should be the easiest money you ever save. You have no bad habits to unwind yet. You haven't built a lifestyle around spending everything you earn. In theory, this should be simple. But here's the problem. Nobody has built the muscle yet. Saving money isn't actually a math problem. It's a behavior problem. And behavior is the hardest thing in the world to change, especially when you've never had to change it before. Think about the last time you tried to build a new habit. Working out, waking up earlier, cutting out sugar. The first few days are brutal. Not because the activity itself is hard, but because your brain hasn't built the pathway yet. Every rep feels like a fight. Every choice requires willpower you don't naturally have yet. Saving your first $1,000 works exactly the same way. You're not just setting aside cash. You're rewiring a part of your brain that spent your entire life associating money with immediate spending. Every dollar you've ever earned has had somewhere to go. Rent, food, fun, whatever. Now suddenly you're asking that same brain to let a dollar just sit there and do nothing. That feels unnatural. It feels wrong. And that's exactly why so many people fail at this stage. Now compare that to somebody trying to go from $50,000 to $100,000. That person already has the habit locked in. They already know how to say no to impulse purchases. They already have a system, a budget, a rhythm. Adding another $50,000 isn't a behavior problem anymore. It's just math and time. This is the part that blows people's minds. The identity shift required to save your first $1,000 is bigger than the identity shift required to go from $100,000 to $1 million. Because once you're the type of person who saves money, scaling that up is just a matter of degree. But becoming that person in the first place? That's the real mountain. There's actual research behind this. Studies on habit formation show that the hardest part of any behavior change isn't the middle or the end. It's the very beginning, before momentum exists. Once a habit is established, your brain stops fighting you and starts working with you. The exact same principle applies to money. Let's talk about what actually happens in your brain during that first $1,000. Every time you choose to save instead of spend, you're fighting what psychologists call present bias. Your brain is wired to prioritize immediate rewards over future ones. That's why skipping a $15 dinner out feels so much harder than it should. Your brain doesn't care about your future self. It cares about right now. But here's the fascinating part. Every single time you override that impulse and choose to save instead, you're weakening present bias just slightly. It's like a muscle. The first rep is agony. The 100th rep is automatic. By the time you've saved your first $1,000, you've done this override hundreds of times. You've built actual neural pathways around delayed gratification. This is why the second $1,000 comes faster than the first. Not because you're earning more money, because you're not fighting yourself anymore. Now let's get into the math, because the numbers here are honestly kind of wild. Let's say you're saving $200 a month. Your first $1,000 takes about 5 months, and every single one of those months feels like dragging a boulder uphill. But your second $1,000? Same $200 a month, but now you're not white-knuckling every decision. It might still take 5 months on the calendar, but it takes a fraction of the mental energy. And here's where compounding starts to matter. Once you actually start investing that money instead of just holding it in cash, the math shifts even more in your favor. $1,000 growing at 8% a year only earns you $80. Not exactly life-changing. But that's not the point. The point is what that $1,000 represents. It's proof. Proof that you're capable of overriding your own impulses. Proof that you can delay gratification. That proof is worth more than the $80 it earns you. Here's something most people never think about. The gap between having $0 and having $1,000 is psychologically massive. But the gap between having $99,000 and $100,000 barely registers. You've crossed so many other thresholds by that point that one more $1,000 doesn't require any new willpower at all. It just happens as a side effect of the system you've already built. This is why people who reach $100,000 in savings often say it felt easier than they expected, while people who are still trying to save their first $1,000 feel like they're failing constantly. They are not failing. They're doing the hardest rep in the entire set. Let's talk about why this actually matters for your future, because this isn't just some feel-good idea about mindset. Your first $1,000 determines your next $1 million in a very literal way. Not because $1,000 magically turns into $1 million through interest. It won't. But because the identity you build while saving that first $1,000 is the exact same identity that will carry you to $1 million decades later. If you never build that identity, no amount of income will save you. You've probably seen this yourself. People who make 6 figures a year but have nothing saved. Their income went up, but their identity never changed. They're still the same person who spends whatever comes in, just with bigger numbers attached. Meanwhile, someone earning half as much, who fought through that brutal first $1,000, keeps building. Not because they got lucky, because they already proved to themselves that they're someone who saves. There's another piece of this that's easy to miss. Once you've built that first $1,000, you start noticing money differently. You start seeing small leaks in your spending that you never noticed before. You start asking whether a purchase is worth it, not out of guilt, but out of habit. This isn't deprivation. It's awareness. And that awareness compounds just as much as the money does. So if you're sitting there right now with $200 saved, or even nothing at all, and you feel like you're failing because you're not seeing huge numbers yet, I want you to reframe what's actually happening. You're not behind. You're doing the hardest part first. The part that almost nobody sticks with. The part that determines everything that comes after it. The people who eventually build real wealth aren't the ones who found some secret shortcut. They're the ones who survived their own first $1,000. They pushed through the discomfort of asking their brain to do something it wasn't built to do naturally. And once they did, everything after that became progressively easier. Your first $1,000 isn't a small milestone on the way to something bigger. It's the entire foundation. It's proof that you can become someone different than who you were yesterday. And that proof is worth more than any single dollar amount could ever be. So the next time you look at your savings account and feel discouraged because the number still looks small, remember this. You're not failing at math. You're succeeding at the hardest behavioral shift there is. And that shift, more than any interest rate or investment strategy, is what will actually determine whether you end up with your next $1 million.